Okay, now we're going to be talking about the places and spaces in which groups operate, the contexts in which groups work, and the context in which they interact. If you recall that classic formula that Lewin put together, behavior is a function of the person and the environment. Well, now we're going to be really talking about the environment and how it can have an impact on group processes. Okay, we'll start with the places that people work. Basically, here, if you look at, for example, like this close-up of the space vehicle that the Apollo 13 crew worked in, you can, it was a pretty tight, close space that they had to work under extremely stressful circumstances, but they were able to work together, and they were able to bring the ship back home safe, and bring the ship, and everybody survived, and bring them back safely. So it was certainly, you have to consider the environment that the group members were in terms of figuring out, how the dynamics work. If you think about it at the very, at the first level here is the person, just the individual here. You have the person you can interact with a group. These are the people you're interacting with, and it's the setting that the group is operating in. The organization is kind of a larger. The group may be within an organization, and the organization is in kind of a locality, a local region. Community, again, the same thing, the region. Society, and all humanity is kind of global. So if you think about the context in which groups operate, it could be the context could be, the conference room that a group is meeting in. It could also be the building in which a company is situated. It could be the industrial park where the company is located with other companies in that area. It could be the town in which that industrial park is located. It could be the city in which that town is situated, and it could be the county or the state. So you can see how far it goes, and all of these can have an impact on group processes at some level. So the place that you are working, Russell puts together an interesting, way of interesting two factors here that to consider when it comes to the space you're working in, the place you're working in. On the one level, is this place giving you pleasure or displeasure? Is it a pleasing place to be situated, or is it an unpleasant place to be situated? Okay, so that's one dimension. The second dimension is is how arousing it is, essentially. So you have, on the one hand, a place which may be, one place which may be very, arousing. That's the activation area here, where it just creates a lot of arousal, maybe a lot of tension, a lot of, just physiological activity. It's an arousing place to be. If you're a parent, you know what it's like to be, for example, in a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. It's very arousing. All the noise and all of the activity going on around you. Deactivation reflects, a very calm and peaceful, very low arousing environment. Quiet, peaceful, calm, whatever. Think like a library would be on the deactivation end. So compare like the library with the Chuck E. Cheese now. You may enjoy both locations. They may both be pleasurable, but certainly one is going to be more, more arousing than the other. And again, you can take a look here. So like maybe for a child at least, the Chuck E. Cheese would be highly arousing and pleasurable. The library may be pleasurable too, so maybe some of the emotions that may come about from that would be like being calm and placid and content. But if you are maybe like you're in a depressing, quiet office in like the basement of a building where you don't have much human interaction there, maybe it's sad, gloomy, poor lighting and stuff like that. You find that kind of place that you're working. That may be a place where you kind of like, tend to fall asleep, just not arousing at all. On the other hand, you might be in the middle of a very tense, bustling office, everybody bumping into each other, and no privacy, and people yelling and screaming at each other. Boy, that's a lot of tension. And so it's an unpleasant environment, and it's highly arousing. So all this gives you a sense of the ambience of the place that the group is interacting with each other. And again, it can have an effect on how the group interacts. One effect could be cognitive overload. If you are in one of those highly arousing environments, you just may be so stimulating that you can't take it. Interestingly enough, there is a personality characteristic called, sensation seeking. There are people who are seeking out those highly stimulating environments. So they prefer those kind of places. People who are low in sensation seeking, actually they prefer those kind of quiet environments. Those noisy, highly arousing environments are actually just too much for them. So someone who is low in sensation seeking, also someone who would be low in extroversion, would be somebody who would be would be more susceptible to cognitive overload, particularly in those noisy, active, arousing situations. Nevertheless, you can kind of go and restore yourself like a natural environment where your cognitive resources can be replenished. That's based on attention restoration theory. And you can think about this too. If you've ever been on a retreat, that's the purpose of what a retreat does. It takes you away from the hustle and bustle of the office, allows you to kind of reconnect. Reconnect if it's a religious retreat. Reconnect with God. If it's just a retreat just for your for your company, just allows you to kind of get your mind off of those other issues and relax and kind of get in touch. And oftentimes those retreats are in very nice, peaceful locations, which makes sense. Unfortunately, there are stressful places that we work. I'm sure that many of you are working in places maybe that are that unfortunately present situations where you develop a lot of stress, where you develop those negative responses to those circumstances. You feel as if your well-being is threatened, your safety is threatened. So these are circumstances of stress, and sometimes these places can be a factor in exacerbating our levels of stress. We tend to avoid those kind of areas. So dangerous areas are certainly ones that threaten our well-being. We stay away from them. Noisy areas, just again that cognitive overload, and just as unpleasant. The noise is unpleasant. Sometimes the temperature is unpleasant, it's too hot and too cold. And again, you might find yourself working or living in these kind of locations. It can have increase your stress level for sure, and it can have an impact on the group dynamics that you're having as well. So let's talk about some dangerous places. These EUEs, extreme and unusual environments. Now, some people are crazy enough to actually voluntarily go into these EUEs. There are people who are researchers who go to the Antarctic and stay there for months at a time doing research. It's a highly extreme, dangerous environment, and people are voluntarily going there. They're interested in doing the research, and they're willing to cope with these environments. There are people who will climb Mount Everest. Highly, highly extreme and unusual environment, and people voluntarily do this. But in those kind of circumstances, groups have to be very well organized. They need to work together. You don't just willy-nilly go into, I think I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. You need to be able to do this and do it in such a way that it's a well-organized group activity that does this.